So you finally got out of bronze and made it into silver, but now you're struggling to progress in silver. Well, don't worry, I have you covered with some tips to hopefully progress out of silver and get into gold or even higher. First off, the number one thing you need to do is build consistency. You need to be consistently doing the same things, like doing the same takes over and over again, consistently setting up the bomb site the right way, and consistently gathering intel. To build consistency, you need to do the same thing over and over again to make it a habit of doing it. So each and every game you play, you should be focusing on doing those core fundamentals over and over again. This will make you a better player by forcing yourself to build good habits that will benefit yourself and your team. Furthermore, you need to be playing the right operators. If you're playing on a team, then you should be playing a certain role that is needed within the team, like a breacher or a roamer. However, if you're solo queuing, you should bring operators that can frag out and provide you with a lot of intel, like Ayana, Velk, Legion, Fenrir, etc. Be smart when choosing your operator. Choose someone who could bring value to yourself and your team. Take all things into consideration, like their weapon, their gadget, and their utility. Likewise, you need to have good positioning. Know when to move forward and when to push back. For example, you know you're able to push forward when the enemy doesn't have control over an area, but they are trying to gain control over it. So maybe there's a room that an enemy is trying to get into. You should push forward and show your presence, so it puts pressure on the enemy. On the other hand, you know you should push back when the enemy has gained too much control over the area. Let's say you're watching a certain room, but an enemy starts pushing up the stairs into the room while another enemy is entering through a window in the room. You can't watch two entryways at the same time, so it's time to push back so you don't die and watch the door of the room that the enemies have to funnel into. Moreover, you need to adapt to how your team plays. What I mean by this is that if your team wants to get aggressive and get into sight fast, you also need to get aggressive with them. Don't just sit back and play slow, especially when your team already has control of a lot of ground. Push with them and get ready to refrag them if they die. The same goes for if your team is playing slow. Don't get crazy aggressive and push the bomb site really fast all by yourself. Instead, play slow with your team until they're ready to get aggressive. Additionally, you need to always have a game plan. While in the prep phase, you need to be creating your game plan based off of the map and the bomb site you're on. So let's say you're playing on Chalet on the basement bomb site. Well, you're going to definitely need some kind of wall denial, as well as someone to stop nades from coming in. Also, you're definitely going to want a roamer and someone who brings traps. Knowing this information, you will bring an operator that fills one of those roles and then continue your plan from there. Let's say you decide to bring wall denial by playing Cade. Well, your plan should be to keep the main breach from being destroyed for as long as possible. Maybe from Cade tricking or putting your Cade in a sneaky spot. But regardless, that's your job, to make sure the main breach doesn't get opened and now you have a full plan in place. Sometimes your plan doesn't always work out though. Like maybe within the example, the main breach does get opened up. Well, now you have to make a plan on the fly. This is something that's very important because you need to know how to strategize quickly. Still using the same example, the breach is now opened. So what do? Well, make sure they don't open another breach by putting your remaining Cade Claw on either the back wall or the side wall. Then you should be watching the main breach and putting as much pressure on it as you can. This way, they'll be scared to enter through the main breach, which stalls their time. By making a plan and then making another plan on the fly, you've successfully wasted enough of the enemy's time to where they have to get the bomb down or they lose. That's when you could gun them down and win the round. If you could do this every round of every match you play, you'll win more games. So always have a plan and be ready to make another plan on the fly. Another great tip I have is to know when to get aggressive and when not to. The rule of thumb is when you're down in man count, you want to get aggressive. This is because the enemies have the man advantage. So if you're playing too passive, the entire enemy team will just hit you from different angles all at once, and then you're done for. So by getting aggressive, you're giving yourself more of an advantage because you could catch the enemies off guard and potentially get a few kills and clutch the round. On the other side of things, you play more passive when you have the man advantage. So let's say your whole team is alive, but only 2 enemies are left. There's no need to get aggressive because you already have the advantage. If you get aggressive, you'll most likely just lose man count because the enemies will be trying to bait for kills. Finally, the last tip I have to rank up and get out of silver is to work on your gun skill. You should be practicing every time you play to better your aim. That means every time you play the game, you should be using the training grounds and the shooting range. You should be focusing on getting more accurate and controlling the weapon's recoil until you get it down to a T. Even if you're super accurate and have every single weapon's recoil pattern down to a T, you still should be trying to practice and improve your gun skill because there's always room for improvement. At the lower ranks, it is more about who has the better and faster aim compared to strategies. So trust me, work on your aim and you'll start to see yourself rank up more. In conclusion, if you want to rank up and get out of silver in Rainbow Six Siege, there's a few things you are able to do. You have to build consistency, play the right operators, have smart positioning, adapt to how your team plays, have a game plan, know when to get aggressive and when not to, and finally work on your gun skill. If you do these things correctly and do them every game you play, you'll get better at the game and in return you'll rank up more, which will get you out of silver. That's it for me though. What are some tips you have to get out of silver? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like. And if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.